I think my task this morning perhaps is to lay some challenges out about how the economy is looking today and what we need to do to get the economy growing again and what our vital role is in achieving that. So to start with, I think we need to be brutally honest about where we are. Crudely, the government's bust, the consumer's bust, and less than 30% of the FTSE 100 turnover is in the UK. So that means you and I, ladies and gentlemen, private and family businesses, of which the North East has a large number, a much greater proportion in our economy than in any other region of the UK. It's us that has to grow us out of this problem. And I think we need to be really realistic about that. It is our responsibility.
I think generally as the North East tends to just get on with things, and I think a lot of businesses, especially where I'm based, they do just tend to get on with it. And yeah, it was very bold and very thought-provoking what Lucy had to say. But yeah, I think it's just a case of those businesses pulling together and moving forward.
One of the issues around that is that less than 25% of private and family businesses actually have any form of external investment in their business. That's quite staggering. So 3/4 of us are endeavouring to grow our businesses with no external capital investment. I find that very strange. Very few of us would stand here and say we could grow our business without investing in more people, without investing in more assets, without investing in more relationships. A number of those things cost money. So I'm really surprised that 3/4 of us don't actually access external capital to help accelerate that growth. Because we can't all be sitting on loads and loads of cash and doing it all from retained profit. The other really important thing about private and family businesses is that actually we punch well above our weight in the UK economy. If you take the M bit of SME, which stands for small and medium enterprises, and that's broadly businesses up to about €50 million turnover and 250 employees, they account for probably less than 1.5% of the business stock in the UK. And yet they account for 17% of the corporate tax take. And they account for just over 16% of private sector employment. So we're actually delivering to the UK in a way that our big and little cousins are not. And that reinforces the need for us to continue to grow and be ambitious and broaden our horizons in order to grow the economy.
I think the last few years have been tremendously challenging for business, so therefore you're taking a lot of knocks. Some of the plans you had 3-5 years ago haven't quite come through, but actually if you've survived, you're sitting in a great position. There's often more space because some of your competitors haven't survived. So now is the time to rekindle that spirit.
I started my business last year, so it's quite a new business in the Northeast based. It's very, very difficult times. I think all of business people realize, and just general public realize that they are difficult times. But I think we are on the right move now and on the right way to start something that I think it's just going to grow.
Given what I said about where government spending is and where the consumer spending is, it's quite obvious that the market we have to go for is not here within the British Isles. It's about export. And again, James mentioned that manufacturing business has shown an increase in exports and an increase in activity in recent months. And that's very encouraging. Human beings around the world have very similar needs and wants. Yes, we have different languages, we have different business cultures, but it's not as if this country isn't used to trading. We have a multicultural society and we have lots of history and lots of experience of trading around the world. I think the fear factor is much higher than the reality. There are lots of sources of advice. Yes, you can get booklets and so on from accountants, from UKTI and so on, but the most valuable thing is go and talk to another business that's done it. Go and find out what they've done. I was talking to a business down in Wales yesterday whose view was that actually you just got out, wore out some shoe leather, you learned by your mistakes and you did it. And they're an 85% export business, having been less than 10% only 3 years ago. So it is possible. Talk to Brompton Bicycles. They're selling bicycles to the Chinese. Who would ever have thought that would happen? I think we need to be brutally honest as well about what the new landscape is against which this growth has to occur. There are no more handouts. Government does not have any money to give us. Inflation levels at the moment are global imported inflation. There's something we have to deal with. It's highly unlikely we'll be able to pass on prices to our customers. The price of oil is not something that the UK government or the Monetary Policy Committee can do anything about. And I think we have to understand that's part of our environment and have to adjust our business models accordingly. The pound's depreciation must be helping our exporters, and I suspect when I talk to manufacturers, it's one of the contributing factors to their raised confidence and their sense of can-do. And the other big plus that Britain has, and I think we have particularly here in the Northeast, is a highly flexible workforce. And that's something, again, which I think we should treasure and we should exploit. It's been very interesting in this recession how flexible private sector workforces have been. A lot of people going on short-term working, holding their jobs but going on 4-day week rather than have redundancies. Let's hope that some of our public sector counterparts are able to show the same kind of flexibility. Because it's very interesting that unemployment in the private sector did not go to the heights that a number of commentators expected during the recession. Whilst a large number of us took big pay cuts, went on short-time working, but actually recognised that that was perhaps the way for our businesses to survive and ultimately for our own personal well-being to survive. Capital, in my view, is available in the UK. Look at the amount of cash sloshing around in pension funds. Look at the amount and ease with which international capital continues to flow despite the banking crisis. What has shifted without a shadow of a doubt is the risk-reward profile, and so pricing has changed. But we were having silly pricing, very silly pricing. We also, I think, had a big problem in a number of us taking short-term money for long-term projects. And one of the outcomes of the banking crisis and the credit crunch is we all have to get smarter and be better educated about the difference between our cash flow requirements and our long-term investment capital requirements. Restructuring our balance sheets is something which I think as business people we perhaps have a lot to learn about. And an overdraft is not the only source of capital for a growing business. So I think one of the challenges for us and one of the issues we face as business people is understanding actually our own demand for capital. And that, I think, is incumbent upon us and our bankers and advisors to educate us and educate ourselves around what a sound financial strategy looks like for a growing business. When you export for the first time, guarantees for your cash flow and trade finance are one part of the equation. When you change your sales and marketing strategy and you're now exporting beyond Europe, therefore your financial strategy needs to change too. Your balance sheet probably needs to look different. The other challenge I would lay to the audience is, why are we hoarding cash? Because we are. The stats are staggering about the amount of cash being hoarded by UK business. And I can only conclude that is purely and simply about confidence. If you believe in the skills of your people, you believe in your products and services, and there's lots of evidence for demand from customers either here or internationally, then you'll get a much higher return by investing that cash in growth than you will by sitting on it. If you're worried about where you're putting your cash and it is currently under your mattress, the only way you'll convince yourself is if you write a thorough, well-argued and rational business plan that convinces yourself and your shareholders of the need to invest. The third area, I think, is that of external advice. One of the things that some work the Institute of Chartered Accountants did, probably almost a decade ago now in the Northeast, was that we have the lowest take-up of non-executive directors of anywhere in the UK in private businesses. Now, isn't that interesting? We'll train our people and we'll invest in training staff, but we won't train ourselves as the leaders of businesses or seek advice. The government's done some recent work with Experian and found some staggering results, which is greater than 50% of businesses in the family and private business arena have taken no form of senior team development in the last 5 years. I find that staggering when we have faced unprecedented amounts of change and uncertainty in our world, that we're not investing in our own skills to lead our businesses forward. I can understand entirely why many of us are sceptical about the value of some of the advice provided perhaps from the banks. Precisely because they were shoveling out money, but so were we taking it. But my challenge to advisors in the audience is also there is a responsibility for professional advisors to actually provide sound, long-term strategic advice to your clients for the good of the business. One of the things I think we have an opportunity to really harness at this time is to start to value rather than cost external advice. Whether that comes from our bank, our lawyer, our accountant, a mentor, a non-exec, or a network of fellow business people. All too many of us talk about being isolated, running our business on our own. We talk to our competitors, but that's to get competitive information. We believe our business is unique. We can't learn anything from someone who runs a different business. I would challenge all of those assertions. And I sense also that I'm speaking to the converted. After all, you've chosen to come to a day where you are listening to other people. But I would encourage you to go out to other business people that you know and encourage them to explore extra learning and development, because it will be a key investment in the development of their business.